This is Damon Fordham, Adjunct Professor of History at Charleston Southern University in the Citadel, as well as an author and historian. Now this morning, I would like to talk to you a little bit about the teachings of one of the greats of our history, the legendary Marcus Garvey, and what he had to say on the subject of false prophets, a major pestilence in our society then and now. Marcus Garvey was born in St. Ann, Jamaica, 1887. And he read a lot of books as a young man, and he worked as a merchant seaman, and wherever he went throughout the Caribbean as well as Europe, he went to libraries and read. And one of the things that he read was Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington, for those of you who don't know, was born in slavery in Malden, West Virginia, when literally walked 400 miles from Malden, West Virginia, to Hampton, Virginia, so that he could get an education at Hampton Institute. From there, he went on to co-found Tuskegee Institute, now university, one of the best-known schools for African Americans, and he became one of the best-known African American leaders of his day. Marcus Garvey read how Booker T. Washington started from nothing to help found the school, and he said, "Where's the black man's government? Where is his king? Where is his kingdom? I could not find them, so I thought that I would make them." Because in those days, Africa was ruled largely by Europe, and Haiti and Ethiopia were the only independent black countries around. So he wrote a letter to Booker T. Washington asking if he could give him some advice, and the two of them exchanged several letters until Booker T. Washington invited Garvey to come to America and meet with him, but Booker T. Washington died in 1915 before that could happen. So he went to Harlem, and he would later on established the organization he founded a few years earlier, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, to the largest black organization that the world had known up to that time and up to this day. One of the things that Garvey taught was how to be proud of yourself with your African origins. He taught about the greatness of African history and great leaders and how people can aspire to be great like them. And that's something that's really important because you see, today, many people understand that there would be no talk of black pride had there not been so much black shame forced upon the people. They would never have to say Black Lives Matter if for so many black people's lives didn't matter. Jesse Jackson would have never said, "I am somebody," if the people were not taught that they were nobody to begin with. And so Garvey said, "Up, you mighty race, accomplish what you will," to give pride and encouragement to a people who had only known discouragement and discrimination and so forth, and he taught them how to believe in themselves and make something of themselves. He died in 1940, but fortunately we have his teachings in several books, such as The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, shown here, as well as Marcus Garvey's Life and Lessons, so that even though he's not here, his teachings are with us. And there's one aspect of his teachings and his lessons that I'd like to talk to you about right here and now, and that is as follows. He warned his followers of the many false prophets within the black community at that time, and he warned his followers that whenever false prophets that come around you, to expose them and drive them out. He said, "Never entertain anyone who comes to you with presumptive titles, such as claims to be God, Christ, John the Baptist, or any titles like that." Remember, he said, anytime fake princes or chiefs come among you, expose them and drive them out. Now, in times of crisis, false prophets do well. We're living in a time when a lot of young people have grown up with wise fathers in the home, wise mothers in the home, or the type of cohesive communities where the people in the community instructed the youth. For many young people today, they have never known that. So you have a lot of false prophets that have come on the internet with all these wild titles and phony degrees, promising to build fake schools and fake empires and giving them a lot of false conspiracy theory information. And since many of these young people have never gotten into the practice of reading or critical thinking, they fall for these things. I remember a young lady in the community in which I lived who fell up with this gentleman who claimed that he was God, and he was one of several wives of his. Well, the fake man who was pretending to be God told the ladies that he was living with in his little harem that they should not feed their children anything but fruit. And they did just that, and the children suffered from malnutrition, and the Department of Social Services wound up taking the children. None of that would have happened if the young lady had received proper instruction in her youth not to follow people like this, and to know that when some phony is pretending to be God or anything like that. So, with all these type of things happening now, it is important that we read and understand the teachings of the wise people who have come before us, as well as listening to wise elders. And we also have to take the lessons of pride in oneself, as Marcus Garvey preached, because after all, the book of Proverbs teaches us, as a man thinketh, so is he. And if you think that you are nobody and nothing, you will be nobody and nothing. But if you believe in yourself and think of yourself as a great person who can accomplish great things, and you listen to wise old people with wise teachings and read the wise teachings of great elders such as Marcus Garvey and Ida B. Wells and all these wonderful people who've come before them, you too will also become a great person in your own way. And with that said, even though you may not be a leader like Marcus Garvey or Ida B. Wells or Dr. King or Rosa Parks, you can still find whatever talents that you have in yourself and expand upon them so that you can be great within your talents and an inspiration to those around you. So remember, folks, stay away from false prophets, know them when you see them, and think well of yourself. And with that said, this is Damon Fordham, and you have a good afternoon.